You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. During the next hour, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM on the dial. Father Greg Sakowicz, the Rector of Holy Name Cathedral, and co-host, Executive Director of the Cathedral, Mark Teresi. We are live streaming this morning, so we're going to wave to you. Look at the cameras. Wave there, Mark. How are you doing, Mark?
Very good. Don't forget we have our mask on.
And we're social distancing,
right,
at least 6 feet apart. And
I'm an expectant grandfather.
When?
Any day our little grandson's supposed to be coming. So.
And this is number
5.
Number 5. And we'll certainly keep a prayer for number 5 any day. And look at the world the little one's being born into. This whole COVID-19 has not gotten worse. Social unrest has not gotten better.
Our daughter-in-law, one maternity leave is up, will be teaching from home. My wife will be sitting with the little guy because she can't sit with the little guy at home while she's teaching. Who would have thought that, a year ago?
Yeah, it has so changed. 2020 has just been, but I keep telling people, God is with us and God will see us through. We take one day at a time. We have a tremendous program lined up, 312-255-8408, 312-255-8408. NonviolenceWorks is a nonprofit organization located in South Shore. The focus of this organization is violence prevention in our homes, neighborhoods, and wider community. NonviolenceWorks offers education and training in character development and nonviolence. Backed by popular demand, this is the threesome we just cannot break up. Phil Bradley, President and founder of NonviolenceWorks, Dr. Elfriede Wedam, Vice President and Loyola University Professor, Larry Campbell, Treasurer and Chair of the Parish Pastoral Council of St. Peter and Paul Catholic Church in Chicago. Phil, Elfriede, and Larry, welcome to the program this morning. How are you all doing?
Good morning,
Good
Father.
morning.
Thank you for inviting us.
Oh, sure. In fact, you've been on many times, and you are always so terrific in what you talk about. And such a talk about, as I mentioned right at the start of the program, COVID-19, social unrest, an election coming up. And maybe for just a background, Phil, you are the president and founder of NonviolenceWorks. How long has it been in existence, and when did it begin?
Well, it's an ongoing journey. When you look at the evolution of it, we, as a trio, have been together going on 6 years. Well, 4 to 6 years. But the whole principle of nonviolence is going on since the 60s, and we are still working on it. So that's how NonviolenceWorks is still contributing to the pushing the needle using nonviolence.
Now, as an educator, Elfriede, you're Loyola University, you're a professor. How did you connect with this movement?
Well, I connect with it through South Shore. I have been a resident of South Shore many years. My church is in South Shore, and I am very dedicated to the opportunities for equality and integration in our society. So I met Phil through that, and I was very much moved by the activism as well, the opportunity to actually apply ideas that I have thought about, other people have thought about, but never had sort of an immediate avenue for saying to my students, this is something you can do, not just talk about.
Exactly.
And Larry, how did you get involved?
Well, I started I was a senior at Marquette University, and I had an elective to take, and I decided to take a class on nonviolence, and the class focused on Dr. King and Gandhi, as well as Christ as role models. So I've been interested for a long time. And then, as Phil mentioned, Elfriede and Phil started doing some teaching of nonviolence to parishes in the Archdiocese. And I happened to go to one of the seminars a couple of years ago, and I was so impressed with what they were doing. And as Elfriede said, put my ideas into action in terms of what they were accomplishing, that I asked them if they needed some help. And the nice thing is we all three of us got together and have been, I think very successful the last couple of years, but there's still an awful lot of work left to do.
And I think this is such a timely program this morning in light of what's been going on in our nation this year with an upcoming election, which I have to be very blunt. I've heard people say if Trump is reelected, there'll be violence and protesting. If Biden wins the election, there'll be violence and protesting, could be. And so I think, Phil and Elfriede and Larry, how do you respond to something like that? Now, I'm all for peaceful protesting, not a problem. Be happy to even join for the cause. But once it becomes violent and it becomes very tension, and so I know that nonviolence works, you're saying it does work, but don't you find, I'm going to direct this to Phil, in all the work you do you sometimes feel you're taking 2 steps forward and 5 steps backwards?
No, never.
Okay, say more about that.
Not when you apply nonviolence. It's when you misapply nonviolence, you take a step back and you give nonviolence a bad name, which is happening now. But let's deal with the evolution of how we got here. The Pope Francis announced when he first got his seal that he's praying for Chicago, and he's praying that we apply nonviolent principles in Chicago to solve our problems. And it was on the front page of the newspaper. So nonviolent work picked up that mantle because we knew we at least had spiritual support with this position that the church is not going to take. And so we've been lobbying and advocating to work with Cardinal Sakowicz because the initiative that we presented was truth and reconciliation. When there's always a time for truth and reconciliation. And right now, within the construct of this American problem, what the tool that's needed is truth and reconciliation, which is the highest form of nonviolence. But what you need is a central spokesman who can be the moral majority. Anyone can do it if they find themselves, like say the mother who just lost a child to violence. She can declare a truce and let's reconcile other than vengeance. Let's prosecute the criminals, which is not, that's part of the process too. But the main thing is how do we call a truce? The police are criminals to the population. The population look like criminals to the police. We have to call a truce. And how do we reconcile that problem? How do we all come to the table and stop bearing the hatchet in each other, but bury it in history? Okay.
Now, I noticed on your website you have a pledge on your website, a pledge that people would take in terms of living a life that's in recognition, a lifestyle of nonviolence. What is that? Can you tell us that pledge? I mean, that may be something that individuals can take to heart as they listen to you.
Absolutely. See, one of the things that the nonviolent training does, we teach unlearn, learn, and apply. How do you unlearn behaviors that's getting in the way of your development? One, it could be violence. How do you learn nonviolence? Then how do you apply that in your relationships? And after going through the 40-hour training, we asked the participants to pledge to make nonviolence not just a concept, but a way of life. How do you wave to your neighbor? How do you say good morning to your enemy? How do you really start applying this and see the fruits that you get back from this deed? Okay, and so, and every family needs to start looking at how to apply nonviolence in your everyday life. And that's where we're at right now. Being quarantined, there's more domestic violence. From being quarantined, there's more divorces. From being quarantined, there's more child abuse. From being quarantined, there's more substance abuse. How do you apply nonviolence to yourself?
Now, excuse me, Dr. Elfriede, so in this pandemic, not being able to be face-to-face with folks in terms of your training, what's happening? How are you continuing to reach out to folks?
How do you reach out to the kids in the classroom?
Yeah, Good question.
Okay, I'll talk about the classroom first, and then we can talk about the local neighborhood organization that we brought together recently through the community trust, Chicago Community Trust sponsorship. But into the classroom, we talk every single day about how we are and what challenges we face, and I try to draw the students out about what's going on in their lives and how they're dealing with it. Some of my students have become ill, and thankfully they are not too seriously ill. They still listen to the class. As you can imagine, we do everything on Zoom now, and they try to keep up with their work because they understand that there's a future. Right? It's not just about today or this fall or even next semester, but we have to engage people very directly about these challenges and give them an opportunity to talk about what's hard, and not allow them to sort of wallow in a certain way, because that is kind of our tendency, right? They are isolated. They are often very sad. They are feeling like they have they're not sure, how to cope with this with their families around all the time. They can't do their work as well because they don't have student colleagues to consult, because many of my students are freshmen. They don't know anybody else on campus. In their class, they can't go to those meeting places where they can discuss and share and learn together. So my job is not just to engage in the material, but to engage with them personally, so that they feel that we can build these connections despite the obstacles.
Elfriede, you and Philip said some very important things, and things that gets me is that right now I deal with people as best I can. Beside our world being turned upside down, is people. Father Chuck Dom spoke at the 10 o'clock mass a few weeks ago about domestic violence. He says, as you said, Phil, domestic violence is up, anger is up, tempers are shorter. And how do we talk about nonviolence works when we read in the paper, like in the Tribune and the Times this morning, now we have more restrictions regarding restaurants, could be numbers gathering. And so what started in March, we seem to be going back to that. We're not stay at home, thank God. But I think we all know people are getting weary, stressed, anxious, tired, and they just want it to go away, and this is not. And so you talk about nonviolence works, but the exact opposite is happening. I find people are incredibly short-tempered, angry, and they take it out on families, neighborhood. And so how do you respond to all this? Unless I'm living in a bubble or something, maybe I'm missing it.
No, very good question. One of the exercises that we use in the training is called Past, Present, Future, Unlearn, Learn, and Apply. And what we show is, how do you apply forgiveness? How do you use forgiveness as a tool to take the blemishes of your past, to take blemishes and issues that you have with people that you're unresolved with, so that you can see how you have been reacting. That because of your unresolved past and unresolved feelings, you are reacting, and it's causing more problems than solving. And so we give them a tool to actually exercise their emotions and see how to get back in perspective, per person, per family. Because people in your past, because one of the things we show is when you ask who have done anything wrong to you, and the people that's on the list is my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my cousin, my friend, my neighbor, a stranger, and it's never a system. It's never an establishment. People who do the most damage to us are people who raise us, who bring us up. They determine our perception and how we react to the world. And so they start to see for themselves. You can heal yourself if you start to exercise your emotions. You start to exercise your spirit. Exercise, because it can be dormant. There's no void space. You got to come out somewhere.
Phil, we're going to go to break here, but just when you said, Cardinal Supich has a wonderful line that goes like this: forgiving doesn't change the past. Forgiving changes the future.
Right.
It's so
Correct.
true. Mark, take us to break.
We're going to take a little break. WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial. Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. We're going to continue our talk with wonderful leadership, Phil, Elfriede, and Larry from NonviolenceWorks. When we come back, Larry, I want to ask you about the parish. What is your sense in terms of in the parish? How are things going in terms of people's tension, stress, etc.? So we'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Throughout our nation and our world, people of all faiths have recently been joining fervently in all kinds of prayer. They have found that coming together in prayer is a source of comfort and strength. In this spirit of unity, the Archdiocese of Chicago has introduced a call to prayer, a telephone line dedicated to prayer. If you would like to join with another person in prayer, call 312-741-3388. This line is staffed from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily with parishioners from across the Archdiocese of Chicago. These volunteers are here to listen to you, offer support, and pray with you. A call to prayer includes a 24-hour voicemail and email options as well. Experience this wonderful opportunity to join with people just like you who trust in the power of prayer. That phone number again is 312-741-3388. Let's pray together today.
You're invited to Keep Hope Alive 2020, the online benefit and celebration of the Archdiocese of Chicago's Immigration Ministry and their nationwide program, Pastoral Migratoria. Join us virtually on the evening of Thursday, October 29th, for a night filled with music, camaraderie, and inspiring speakers. Cardinal Blaise Supich and Sister Norma Pimentel of Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley, who was recently recognized as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people, will be joining us to help keep hope alive. Now, more than ever, the immigrant community, both here in the Archdiocese of Chicago and across the United States, needs the leadership formation and accompaniment that Pastoral Migratoria provides. Registration is free, and sponsorship and advertising opportunities are available. Visit www.keephopealive2020.org for more information and to register. Again, that's www.keephopealive2020.org.
When you think of the word neighbor, warm and friendly thoughts come to mind. Think of smiles across the yard, positive wishes, and looking out for one another on an ongoing basis. Catholic Charities' Neighbors in Need Fund inspires all of these and much more. We've seen an unprecedented number of requests for assistance this year from people who have never needed help before. When you make your gift to the Neighbors in Need Fund, you are igniting hope in the lives of your most vulnerable neighbors, especially individuals and families who continue to struggle to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. Your gift will give them the resources they need to overcome the unexpected, very serious circumstances in which they find themselves now. Give online at CatholicCharities.net or call 312-948-6087. That's 312-948-6087. Catholic Charities Neighbors in Need Fund. Thank you for helping build a world of kindness, one neighbor to another.
We're back, WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi here. We're safe distancing with our mask on, and
Live streaming.
And we're live streaming, and we're on the phone with our NonviolenceWorks friends, Phil, Elfriede, Larry. Larry, you're in a parish. You're at St. Peter and Paul. Give us your take on how is the issue of violence or stress, or how do you see that playing out in the parish?
I think that St. Peter and Paul is certainly like all the other parishes in the Archdiocese. All of us are being affected on a daily basis. A lot of people tell me it's like the movie Groundhog Day. You wake up and you hear the same news again and again and again. And as Father Greg has mentioned, right now things are in trouble. I can tell you that what my parish is trying to do is get back to some sense of normalcy, which I know is not going to be happening anytime soon. But we tried to start some of our committees up via Zoom. We tried to connect with each other in terms of personal contacts, and we try to support each other. And I think many parishes are trying to do the same thing to help us. And, the thing I would say before I give it over to Phil and Elfriede is the fact that now's the time when so many things are outside our control. All of us need to do something every day that we can make a positive impact, which means we can do things to diminish the violence. We can do things to train people. And I think by doing that, we're helping our sanity and trying to tell ourselves, hey, I've made an impact today. So we are really motivated to try to change some of the things that are happening right now.
Now, along those lines, Elfriede, talk about the South Shore collaboration for Safe Zone.
Well, I can speak a little bit to it, but it's really Philip who has spearheaded that effort. In South Shore, we have 29 organizations that we have collaborated with in order to leverage our individual skills and resources to something larger that can actually create the infrastructure for developing a nonviolent zone. And this would be something, we have a model that would apply to all the community areas of Chicago and beyond in order to provide practical on-the-ground training that for people in all the institutions that affect our lives. So it's not just random. It's specified for the different kinds of organizations and groups that actually work in all of our neighborhoods, so that we can build, we can build something correctly that people can rely on, that people can use, that can become, as Phil said earlier, a day-to-day lifestyle.
Why don't you add to that? That's excellent. Want to add to that, Phil?
Yeah. See, the nonviolent zone, and it's just that. It's how do you look at a community, whatever that problem is, and you wrap your arms around it, and you put it in a zone, and you put a trained civilian citizenry on that problem. That's the counterbalance to the police department, of which they've been crying out about. We need help. Where is the citizen? Where is who can come and help us take some of this workload off of us? Well, welcome to the nonviolent zone, because you have to have a trained counterbalance. Part of the problem in the streets right now is the angry citizen is not the correct counterbalance to the argument we have with some angry police. You got to have a trained citizenry to have a counterbalance.
Now,
but the other part is you look at a 1 mile radius, and every ward is 50 of them. Every ward has their trouble zones. The African-American community primarily is always in the newspaper. The African-American community is always look like the only violent community. But there's other communities that have substance abuse primarily, and they have another ethnic group. And they have other cultural domestic violence problems that don't get reported. But it still put a scorn on human development.
People used to come to you for these programs. If I'm a pastor, I'm a lay leader in the parish, and I'm listening to this thinking, boy, we really need some input. We need some training. Well, how do you even go about that now?
Well, what's interesting, this new paradigm can actually speed up learning for those who want to get it. A lot of people are teaching themselves, even on YouTube, on how to fix stuff and solve a problem if you ask the right question. So this training can be modified to that same degree and get a world view. Other people from all over the world can chime in, not just your immediate surroundings, which opens a whole new door for organizing.
So you're a broader coalition.
Right.
You're part of do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, the good thing is, like Elfriede said, we are part of an Indian association group who have roots in groups in India who's complementing the work of Gandhi, of which we also do and put in our training, and how to keeping his life going. One of the things I shared at their event is how Jesus, Gandhi, and King will always be synonymous with each other. They will always be hooked together because Jesus created nonviolence, Gandhi comprehended it, and King got it done. And so they will always be connected.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
Very good.
See, and so, but the nonviolent zone is just that too. It's teaching citizens, and all it is setting up a scientific, non-for-profit organization that provides that service. Because you need a minimum of 9 people, and to administrate and to evaluate your progress, so you can keep moving forward. But they have to be on the same page and understand now.
Now we are running out of time here, but I got to ask an important question for either Phil, Elfriede, or Larry. In the work you're doing, which is magnificent and so much needed, but what gets you out of bed in the morning when you pick up the newspaper and see more violence, more anger, more problems, more destruction? Do you sometimes feel like you're going backwards? I know you. I hope you don't, but it gets hard, doesn't it, Phil?
No. Well, no. Not actually, it doesn't. What I realize is that they haven't figured out the problem. We still have room for the answer. They haven't figured out the problem, and that's not bad news. Because until you figure out the answer, you have to repeat it. You have to repeat it. And so we see clearly, personally and socially, people have not figured out the problem. Now, at some point, people will start asking, how do I get out of this? Because we all are now going through, not just some people, everybody's going through this syndrome. Everybody's going through the 8 stages of violence. Personal self-disrespect, domestic violence, that's all over the place. We are all now having the same syndrome.
Yeah.
Now we can start
Phil,
looking at answers.
hold on for a second, because I love what you just said there, but Elfriede, because we only got another minute here. You deal with college young people. What is their reaction to all of this? Do they see hopelessness moving forward or sign of hope?
Oh, it's mixed, and part of what I try to do is to keep their spirits up. Mm-hmm. Never, ever, ever give up.
Good.
Which we just did a thing with a DePaul class, and I was working with the college students, and what I was able to get them to see is that violence starts with the self. And do you have a resolve to not, when do you see you being able to do it to another, and not just who you see is doing it to other people? And it's that starting point that you make violence a very personal journey that you are working on before you start throwing rocks at other people.
Now, in the last minute here, Larry, can you give us a website for people to learn more about NonviolenceWorks?
Well, let me do this first. Any of the parishes that want training can contact Phil at 312-513-7876.
That number once again, Larry.
312-513-7876.
And do you have a website?
We certainly will work with any parish to help them get the training they need. And Phil can adapt it depending on time limitations on what and of course now it's going to be via Zoom.
Okay, well, we'll thank in a very special way Phil Bradley, the president and founder of NonviolenceWorks, Dr. Elfriede Wedam, vice president and a professor at Loyola University in Chicago, Larry Campbell, treasurer and the chair of the Parish Pastoral Council of St. Peter and Paul Catholic Church in Chicago. Phil, Elfriede, and Larry, thank you very much for being on. You're always fabulous. Our prayers are with you. Stay healthy. God bless. You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi will be back after a break. Stay with us, and again, do not touch that dial.
For more than 20 years, Catholic Charities Adult Protective Services has been advocating for seniors who are the victims of abuse, neglect, and/or financial exploitation. We work with local city and state agencies in a cooperative way to ensure that every concern brought to our attention is handled and that our seniors are safe and protected. According to a report published by the Illinois Department on Aging, last year there were more than 21,000 cases of elder abuse reported in Illinois. Of these, only 6% were reported by the seniors themselves. So raising awareness is definitely an important part of the issue. If you are concerned about a senior you know, call 866-800-1409. That's 866-800-1409. In these unprecedented times, we need to look out for each other, including all of the seniors in our lives.
Have you checked out Chicago Catholic lately? Either in print or online, Chicago Catholic has informative and stimulating content, including news from the Archdiocese, beautiful photographs, and a thoughtful column by our publisher, Cardinal Blaise Cupich. Editor Joyce DeRiga tells us about our current edition of Chicago Catholic.
We have an overview of Pope Francis's new encyclical on fraternity and social friendship. Cardinal Cupich's column is also dedicated to it. The Archdiocese is urging everyone to get a flu shot this year. We share the details of the campaign, and we have coverage of the recent ordination of permanent deacons.
Subscribe now. Go to chicagocatholic.com or call 312-534-7777. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Chicago Catholic, a fresh approach to Catholic news.
There's nothing like having a friend to talk to when things are not going well. And in these challenging days, everyone has had moments when they are discouraged, sad, or worried. Catholic Charities wants you to know that we are here. If you or someone you know would like to share your concerns with a professional, call 312-948-6951. Anytime, day or night, and you will be connected with an experienced counselor who will listen without judgment and offer compassionate, confidential advice that you can trust. That phone number again is 312-948-6951. Before, during, and after COVID-19, Catholic Charities is here for you.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ, 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowicz and Mark Teresi with you. We are live streaming here on the program this morning. We are social distancing. Greetings to all those that are watching live stream. Tremendous first half of the program. Part 2 will be just as fascinating. Backed by popular demand, second time this week, which is a record, Dr. Edward Gordon, historian and professor, be joined us to speak about COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Edward Gordon, great to have you on the program. How are you, Edward?
Well, I'm well, and I hope both of you are also feeling okay.
We are.
We are, and how is Elaine doing?
Fine. We're fine.
Now, I remember the first time we had you on this topic, it was about mid-April, right after Easter, and I remember Mark asked the question, maybe I did, or maybe you even brought up yourself, Edward. We said, if this were a baseball game, what inning would we be in? And you said back in April, it'd be the top of the second. And Mark and I looked at each other and said, what? Mm-hmm. And guess what, Edward? You have been absolutely on target. I need to ask the question now, 7 or 6 months later, if this were a ball game, COVID-19, what inning of the game are we in right now, Edward?
I'd say the fifth.
So about halfway over.
About halfway. That's optimistic.
If it doesn't go into extra innings.
Well, look, this is not the second wave. We never really finished the first wave. The first wave spread from the coasts to the center, to the south, and now it's in the rural areas. And now it's coming back in other areas because they're getting reinfected again. All right? Mm-hmm. So, look, I have a lot of numbers I can bury you all in, and I really don't want to do that. I can just tell you this. we're in deep doo-doo right now.
Now say more about that. Why? What's the deep doo-doo?
The deep doo-doo is the fact that too many people are ignoring the simple safety precautions that we need to take in order to stop the spread of this infection. Chicago is at a 7.9 positivity rate right now. We've had 2,900 people die in the city. 94,000 people have tested positive. In fact, we really believe that you can number the people that test positive, you can multiply by a factor of 10. So that really means that probably in the city there are 940,000 people who have the virus right now.
Holy Edward, that's close. We're talking 1 million people.
That's right. So a lot of people are infected. They just don't show the symptoms. All right?
Wow.
So now look, the city and the state are going to come again, it looks, under lockdown. People don't like this. Businesses are dying. Parents are going nuts with their kids at home. The kids aren't getting a good education. All of these are awful things, folks. But let's make this very clear. This is life and death. This is the plague. We do not have a vaccine. That means that if we go to herd immunity, we're going to have 1 to 2 million people in the United States die from this. Right now, the projections are 300,000 may die by Christmas, over 400,000 by the end of February.
Ed, could you explain to folks, make sure they understand herd immunity?
Herd immunity means that we'll just take off our masks, we'll go to restaurants, we'll go to basketball games, we'll just ignore it and say, this doesn't exist. Welcome back to real life. Let it rip. All right? And that's where a lot of people feel, particularly younger people, because they say they're not getting sick, so why should I bother doing this?
Does herd immunity mean that 60% of the population gets it, and you get past that halfway marker, and then it'll begin to disappear? Is that herd immunity?
Right, exactly. Okay. All right? And we did that with the Spanish flu. 1% of the population of the city of Chicago died from the Spanish flu in 1918, 1919, 20. Okay? So if we did that now in the United States, in the Chicago land area, you'd have huge numbers of people dying. We'd have, 100,000 people die in the city, 500,000 in the Chicagoland area, 750,000 in Illinois, and maybe 2 million people across the United States, and 469 million people all around the world.
Now, Edward, I got to ask this question. I have friends that do their extremes, and that is, I know of friends who rarely leave the house,
right,
and others who treat this like, Greg, this is the flu. What's the big deal?
Okay. I want to offer you this revelation. Last year, 16,550 people died from traffic accidents in the United States. All right? Now, I want to propose this to you. Let's say 5% of all the drivers on the road right at this moment said, to hell with all the traffic laws. I'm going to speed, stop signs, stoplights, pedestrians, I don't give a damn. And they just ignored it. What would happen? We'd have anarchy. We'd have how many people dying every year on the road? Okay. Right now, you have 227,000 people have died from this. Now, in my car, I can see people coming at me. Oh, my God, I may die. I better obey the traffic law. I better stop. People can see the danger, don't they? And if I obey the law, then other people won't kill me, so I'll obey the law too, okay? Now, you do see people running red lights. We all see people breaking traffic laws, but it's not endemic that everyone is doing it, so I'm going to do it too, and I don't care anymore. Well, hey, how many people aren't wearing masks? How many people aren't socially distancing? How many people aren't washing their hands? How many people insist on going to big crowd events? What I'm saying to you right now is that, on average, you are 14 times more likely to die from COVID than you are in a traffic accident. 14 times more. And as the numbers keep going up, that proportion will get bigger and bigger and bigger. All right? So when you say, well, I'm more likely to die in a traffic accident going to O'Hare Airport than in a plane crash. Okay, let's make that comparison. I'm making this comparison now because you drive cars. People are afraid of dying in traffic. Oh, but Ed, this COVID is a myth. It doesn't exist. It's a conspiracy by different people. It's all over the world, folks. It's all over the world.
Now, Ed, you're a historian. And I know we're in the middle of this thing right now, but flash forward 30 years, looking back at this time, how would you look at this as a historian?
Well, I would look at this that we're now getting animal viruses infecting populations, and because of the globalization of travel, it spreads around the world. The Black Death was something that was transmitted by fleas through rats that killed people. Mm-hmm. The Spanish flu was caused by infections from chickens and birds. This is caused by an infection from bats. I had a friend whose dog died of heart disease because they caught a virus. The dog had a virus, and it reduced the heart's pumping. He caught that virus. He's still alive. He's taking medication. Other people have caught that virus. It's not that uncommon.
Wow.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying to you is, hopefully in the next 50 years, we will develop more ways in which we'll be able to cope with viruses from animals that start infecting people. People are eating animal products that are dangerous. There's more close proximity to wild animals in many parts of the world. So we may have more plagues like this. This is the plague. You know, read the book, The Black Death by Philip Ziegler. Now, then half to a third of the population of Europe died. They didn't have any significant medical treatments, we know that, and they certainly didn't have a vaccine to help people. This is not the Black Death, but this is very dangerous.
Yes. In fact, folks, you want to join the conversation, 312-255-8408, 312-255-8408. Ask the master here, Dr. Edward Gordon, about the coronavirus, or challenge him with a question, or be part of this conversation. Edward, quick question. No one's going to argue about the need to wash hands. Even when we were kids growing up, my mom would say, Greg, wash your hands before dinner. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Why the big controversy about wearing a mask?
Because it has changed over time. Remember, initially, Dr. Fauci said, well, you don't need to wear a mask. We need the masks we have for the medical people. And that's true. There was huge shortages for doctors and nurses and others trying to treat sick people. Mm-hmm. That changed over time. Now we know that that is part of the solution. It is not a total solution. Now, if everyone wears a mask, it will help. It won't end it, but it will help reduce the number. But right now, you know, we were at 8 million people in America who tested positive. That was on the 18th of October. I predict tomorrow, 11 days later, we're going to be at 9 million people who have tested positive. What does this mean? This means that a lot of people aren't taking enough precautions, so the virus is spreading. So a young person doesn't wear a mask. They go to a grocery store. They stand next to a 70-year-old person or a clerk or someone else, and they catch it. The young person doesn't have it. Okay? Though young people are dying from it, young people are getting sick. Some of them have heart conditions, lung problems, neurological difficulties. They recover, but they have these illnesses later.
Now we're going to take a little break. And Ed, when we come back, I want you to address the issue of the vaccine.
Yes.
People think it's the silver bullet and that everything's going to be wonderful overnight.
Right.
We'll talk about that. WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. We're speaking with Dr. Ed Gordon, and we will be back, and our next topic will be the vaccine. Please stay tuned.
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. At Catholic Charities, we want to remind you that we are here for anyone who's a victim of domestic violence or anyone who has a concern about someone they think might be a victim. This annual recognition of domestic violence began in 1961. Domestic violence affects millions of people each year, both women and men of every race, religion, culture, and status. It includes physical, psychological, sexual, and emotional abuse, inflicted in both subtle and overt ways. If you or someone you know are victims of domestic violence and you are looking for a place to heal and recover, call Catholic Charities at 773-935-3434. That's 773-935-3434. We are working to bring hope and healing.
Do you have a gently used laptop or desktop computer that is gathering dust in your home? Consider donating to our Catholic Charities Veterans Computer Project. We will clean out your device, give it new software, and repurpose it for a veteran who is looking for employment. Your gift will make an incredible difference in a veteran's ability to find a job. Catholic Charities provides veteran services throughout Lake and suburban Cook counties, giving participants an array of professional and personal support. Our veterans have served our country, and it is our privilege to serve them. To learn more about Catholic Charities Veterans Services and the Veterans Computer Project, call 847-782-4219. That's 847-782-4219.
You're invited to Keep Hope Alive 2020, the online benefit and celebration of the Archdiocese of Chicago's immigration ministry and their nationwide program, Pastoral Migratoria. Join us virtually on the evening of Thursday, October 29th, for a night filled with music, camaraderie, and inspiring speakers. Cardinal Blaise Supich and Sister Norma Pimentel of Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley, who was recently recognized as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people, will be joining us to help keep hope alive. Now, more than ever, the immigrant community, both here in the Archdiocese of Chicago and across the United States, needs the leadership formation and accompaniment that Pastoral Migratoria provides. Registration is free, and sponsorship and advertising opportunities are available. Visit www.keephopealive2020.org for more information and to register. Again, that's www.keephopealive2020.org.
We're back. WNDC, 750 AM on your dial. Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. Dr. Edward Gordon, and Father Greg has a special announcement.
Edward, give us some information about you're doing a presentation tonight at Holy Name Cathedral, and now it's at 6:30 p.m.
Right.
What's your topic for tonight?
The Church and State in Balance. It is the history of the Catholic Church in America from the colonial time till now, and the issues facing the Church today with a historical context.
And now if people want to be part of tonight, do they just go to www.holynamecathedral.org?
Right.
Okay, Dr. Edward Gordon on a very important topic.
And we'll have
tonight.
it'll be for an hour and a half, so we have plenty of time to cover the history and answer questions as well.
You're going to cover all that in an hour and a half.
Well,
Sounds like about take it till midnight.
Let's put it this way, folks. It's my job to distill it down so that people can get their arms around it and make some sense of it. That's my job
Dr.
as a
Edward
historian.
Gordon, 6:30 tonight p.m. Go to holynamecathedral.org and find the slider that talks about Dr. Edward's presentation this evening. And I know it'll be by Zoom, so
Right.
I'll have the number information. So, folks, he's worth listening, like you can tell by the program this morning. So, Mark, you have a question?
Yes.
I do. So suppose it's tonight and someone asks you, Dr. Ed, once the vaccine comes, the churches will be filled again, won't it? Won't they?
Well, first of all, remember, we have to find a reliable vaccine. And the best sources that I have tell me that by the middle of next year, we will have a reliable vaccine, and it will have been distributed pretty widely by then, because it's going to start out with the healthcare workers, and then the people who have the greatest risks, so the ones who have various types of illnesses now where they're compromised, and then older people, and it will gradually filter down. It'll probably take all of next year to distribute a reliable vaccine worldwide, okay? Now, you have many people, however, who are anti-vaccine.
Right.
Some say they're going to wait until there's something that is reliable and has been tested. That's about 50%. So when a vaccine is immediately available, some people will wait until they see what happens.
I heard the impact will be about 70% of the folks it will work, but you're dealing with 30% that you're still have an infected population.
Well, you may have, according to the latest polls I have, 17% won't even take the vaccine.
They will not, you said?
Right.
Wow.
Correct.
Wow.
They will not. Well, how many people don't take a flu vaccine? All right. Now, some people have a bad reaction to the flu vaccine. That's true. But most people do not. Is it better to get the vaccine or not to? Obviously, you're running a much higher risk if you don't get it. All right? Now, will the vaccine be perfect? No. No vaccine is ever perfect. However, right now, again, we are having the numbers of people being infected day to day in the United States is reaching an all-time high, and also worldwide. You have very soon this pandemic may become out of control unless people start taking precautions.
Okay, Edward, let me ask you a question.
And we're talking about everybody taking these
Okay, let me ask you a
precautions.
question, Edward.
Yes.
Well, we've seen since lockdown on March 14th, we were locked down until June 15th.
Yes.
So when it started, it was getting to be better weather.
Right.
June 15th was lifted, and yet it was a summer we never had because the things we normally would do, we never did. We could go outside more. Now it's getting colder.
Yes.
It's getting darker sooner.
Yes.
And we're getting to the flu season. That as we project forward, do you truly see this being worse, much worse than we've had the last 7 months?
The potential is clearly there, unless people take these precautions. This disease is a killer, and it exists. That's why I'm trying to offer people some rubrics to compare to other life-threatening things like car accidents. This is much deadlier than dying in a car, and it's much more likely you're going to get it and die from it than a car accident. People are afraid of that. All right? And people have been ignoring this for many reasons. There has not been a national consensus on this issue. I wish to point out to all of your listeners, no matter what political persuasion they are, what religion they belong to or don't belong to, where they live, this is not a conspiracy. Forget the conspiracy theories.
Now, Edward, I've heard people say the day after the election, this is going to go away.
No, that's not true. No matter who the candidate is, this is not going to go away. This is going to continue.
But Stephen, now even with that line of thought, when people have said to me, Greg, the day after the election, you watch, the numbers are going to go down, it's going to go away. Therefore, their mindset is this whole thing has been a hoax. It's blown out of proportion. People get the flu. And what scares me is a good number of people think that way. I'm with you. I don't see this changing next week. All of a sudden it's going to get better and go away.
29 states have a record of people being infected.
And I'm also hearing people, look at the Democratic states versus the Republican states.
No.
I'm hearing this stuff, but this is in people's minds.
Illinois is on the verge of a total lockdown, okay? And we know that Illinois almost definitely will vote for Biden in the election. But then you look at other states that have always voted Republican, and they, too, now are on the verge. But there's differences. There are cities in other states where the governors have ordered a lockdown and the local cities have refused to follow it. I'm not going to name those cities, but if you read anything other than just the internet, if you read some well-edited newspapers, you will read these stories. 3 weeks ago, we were tested in the U.S. at 51,000 people a day being tested positive. We are now at almost 80,000 people a day being tested positive. All right? So, no, the death rate has slowed because we are having a larger proportion of younger people now hospitalized. We have better antivirals in the hospitals so that more people are surviving, and those are all good things. However, as the numbers of people continue to rise who get sick, and if they overwhelm the hospitals, and in many states that we are approaching that, where the hospitals can't take any more people, the ones who could be saved with proper medical treatment, even if they're 40 or 30 or 25, will die because they can't get the medical treatment.
Now, so Ed, you're right on top of this. Greg and I were saying, I mean, there's a passion in your voice about this, and you're a historian. You're not clairvoyant, but
No.
but we're looking. We were just talking coming over here about Christmas. What do people have to look forward to this Christmas time?
Life. They want to live, don't they?
Right.
Christ came to protect our lives. And if they want to live, they're going to have to do something that many Americans have forgotten the word. It's called self-sacrifice. Do they want to protect their loved ones, their parents, their babies? Do they want to do that, or do they want to be selfish? These holidays are going to be very difficult for everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody. Old, young, rich, poor, Republicans, Democrats, Protestants, atheists, Catholics, around the world, Buddhists, Hindus. This is a war. This is a life and death struggle. People must understand that. And they continue to think that not seeing a mask and distancing are unmanly, and it has a cost. Yes, the cost is death. And people need to understand that. And maybe soon we'll finally have a national consensus. How many people have to die? Let's see. We've already passed the numbers of deaths from the Korean War, the war in Vietnam, World War I.
How many have died worldwide?
And right now, the U.S. worldwide, well, the U.S. deaths are 227. And deaths worldwide,
it's over
I do not have the exact number. I'm sorry.
I think an article that you sent me is over a million. But we need to bring this to a close. I want to thank in a very special way Dr. Edward Gordon. Edward, you are phenomenal.
Yes, thank
this
you
topic.
so much.
Thank you for speaking the truth in terms of not candy coating it, but being passionate about it.
Well, let's hope next time you have me on, I have some better news.
And maybe like the 8th or 9th inning, but in soon. So God bless, Dr. Ed. Give our love to Elaine.
Thank you.
Thank you to co-host Mark Teresi. Great job being with you, Mark. Thank you. Great work of our producer, Vince Gerasoli. Great work of our engineers, Michael May, Brian Hockey Hitman Brock. To all of you, may God bless you. Stay healthy, stay safe. Let's do the precautions necessary for COVID-19. God bless. Go Bears on Sunday.
Yes.
Hey parents, have we got a great idea for you? While your kids are adjusting to be